Entering invoices. Let me go ahead. I do not have one to input right now, but I'm going to use an example. Let me go ahead and pull up one I got today. So normally when we get invoices, we get them via email. So either AppFolio notifies us that a vendor's uploaded an invoice, or vendors will just email you directly with that invoice. So let's um, let's use an example here. So today I got this email. This is what it should look like. It looks like Melanie, you are copied on these now, so that's good. So it'll say something like this: Foster Property Maintenance added a new invoice. It'll have the work order number, the property here, the tenant, so you can always check, if that's one of your properties. And then you can click directly on this button that says View Work Order right here. So I'm going to click on that. It brings me directly to the work order. It shows it's been completed. It also shows that a bill was inputted. You'll see this right here. It's always going to be under your attachments. That's where the vendor uploads their invoice. If they haven't uploaded an invoice and they sent you the invoice directly, then you'll just need to upload it under the attachments here. So what you're going to do, I click on that invoice, and it brings up the invoice right here. You want to make sure there's a description, there's an amount, and everything looks correct, nothing looks crazy, and that they didn't make any sort of recommendations. Sometimes they'll include additional work that they recommend along with an estimate in here. So I always read through this just to see if there's anything I should know about. Then what I do is I'm going to download this file. So it's this little button, this down arrow right here. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to rename it. So we always rename it the owner's last name, the vendor name, and then the date. So in this case, I know it's Lasky. So I put Lasky Foster Property Solutions invoice. And I usually put the month. You don't necessarily have to, but it will start to duplicate because Lasky might already like my computer might already have a file named Lasky Foster Property Solutions. So I just like to put the month in there. So you got Lasky Foster Property Solutions invoice August. Save that. Then I go over to Teams, which I'll do here. I'm going to go to Teams. I'm going to go to Files, and I'm going to scroll down. So I'm going to look for property bills. So right here, property bills, I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click on the year, so 2024, and then I'm going to click on the month. So every month we have to make sure we make a new folder for that month. So right now we're in August, so that's fine. But when it comes to September, we'll have to create a new folder under this 2024 property bills and name it September 2024 uh, bills. Actually, this should be August 2024 bills. Perfect. Then I go on here, and then I click upload. I click files. I go to my downloads, and I upload it. So I actually already did this earlier, so I'm going to delete this after. This is just an example. But now we have the invoice uploaded here. I go back to the work order that I was on, so this work order for Lasky. And what I do is I click on edit. So it's this button right here, edit. And I take the body of what is in the invoice. So in this case, it says he cut trees and bushes away from home and he hauled debris to the dump. So, or debris to dump. So I copy that, just this part right here. I go back to the work order that I'm editing, and under vendor instructions, so remember it always goes under vendor instructions, I paste what he did, and then I put the amount. So in this case, it was, I'm sorry, 180, not 120. So 180, I put what he did, and then I uncheck these because I don't need to email him anything I'm doing here. I'm just entering the invoices. I don't want him to get confused with duplicate emails saying that I'm editing the work order. This is just for our end. So again, I just put what he did here under vendor instructions. I put the total amount and I go down and I click save. So again, just to recap where we are so far, I've downloaded the invoice he uploaded. I renamed it under the owner's last name, the company, the vendor's name, and then the date. I uploaded it to Teams under the property bills 2024, and then under the August 2024 bills or whatever month we're in. Now, finally, the last step is I'm going to go ahead and create an invoice. So I'm going to click on Actions, which is right here on the work order. Now, you got to make sure you're not in edit mode. So make sure that you're not in this edit mode here. It has to be under the actual work order. So make sure once you save those vendor instructions, that's when you'll see this, actions and these three dots. So you're going to click on those. You're going to click Create Third-Party Vendor Bill. So it's right here, Create Third-Party Vendor Bill under Actions. And then you're going to, so normally this is filled out because I did this earlier. Normally this will be empty. So what you're going to do right here under this billable items, that's where you're going to enter the amount. So I know that based on that invoice, it was $180. So I type in 180. Under GL account, we want to be as specific as possible. So if it's painting, I would do painting. If it's like lawn care, we can do gardening. If it's, I mean, we have quite a few plumbing, of course, for plumbing repairs. We have electrical, a little bit of everything. So you just try to be as specific. But if it's just a general repair or something that you don't see a code for, just put it under repair, which is code 6210, or type out repair and it'll come up automatically. Under description, I just put what is on the invoice, but if it's really long, like some invoices, they're really long, then I summarize it. So if it's like multiple turnover items, I'll put turnover repairs, miscellaneous, something like, because this is basically what's going to go on the owner's statement. So I don't want them, they're going to get a copy of the invoice, so they don't need to be like double whammied with a bunch of wording. We just want to put a rough description of what they did. So in this case, I just put what was on the invoice because it wasn't very long. And then lastly, so now you can leave quantity as 1. So again, just make sure under billable items, you filled out the description, the GL account, and the rate. And then you go all the way down. Don't worry about any of these. That is something that's already built in to our system. We don't touch any of that. If it's something that's going to be charged to the tenant, like for example, a tenant broke the garbage disposal because they stuck utensils down it and the invoice says that, then you can click on this, which is basically letting the system know that when we enter this bill, they're going to automatically receive a charge. And when they pay that charge, it goes back to the chargeback GL account. Make sure you do the same, whatever you have up here, just make sure it matches down here. So repair, repair. If it was lawn care, let's say the tenant didn't keep up with the lawn, we sent out a lawn vendor, then I would do gardening, and then down here I'd also make sure it says gardening. And then lastly, you put in the invoice number. So the invoice number can always be found up here, or depending, some vendors use their own invoice system. Foster Solutions, Dwayne happens to use Appfolio, but some have their own separate, like Titletown uses their own system. So you just copy the invoice number and you paste it. And then what you're going to do, you don't have to touch anything here. You don't have to attach any files because it's already attached to the work order. What you're going to do is you're going to click this blue button that says Save and Create Bill. I'm not going to do that because I've already created the bill. I don't want to create a duplicate, so I'm not going to click that. But normally you would click that. Always make sure, sometimes you have to click it twice. So every property we have under a $150 maintenance limit. So if the invoice is more than 150, what happens is after you click this bill, you think, oh, it went through when you go on to your next task, but it actually doesn't go through. What it does is it goes to another page. It says like, are you sure this is it basically gives you like a warning, like an alert, like, hey, this is above the $150 limit that the property has. So you have to go all the way back down and click save and create bill again, like a second time. So just keep that in mind when you're creating these bills. If it's over a 150, or some properties are different. Commercial properties have higher limits, but if it's over a certain limit, usually I just always make sure that it does officially go through. Once it goes through, it'll take you back to the, you know, you'll know it went through because it'll take you back to this page, and then it'll show as completed. And then if you ever want to double check, you can go down here and it'll say bill created. So for example, it says, here's the invoice I created for 180. There's the billable items that I entered in earlier this morning. So yeah, so this bill has been entered. So again, the biggest things are uploading it to Teams to that property bills folder. Also making sure that the file name under Teams is named correctly. Then copying all the guts of the invoice to the vendor instructions under edit mode. And then the last step is just creating the bill by clicking on actions and create third party vendor bill. So that is how an invoice is submitted.